Our call to order our joint meeting of the City Council, Successor Agency to the Redevelopment Agency, Public Finance Authority, and all the rest of the entities as listed on our calendar, or excuse me, on the agenda. This Tuesday, February 9th, 2021 at 6:33 p.m. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Here.
Councilmember Rogers,
Here.
Councilmember Magana,
Here.
Councilmember Corona,
Here.
Mayor Vargas.
Here. Thank you. For those who are joining us on Zoom, if you'd like to make a public comment on the Zoom screen, please click on the Participants button. And on the bottom of your screen, there'll be a list of participants appearing, and on the right-hand side of the screen at the bottom of the list, there's a gray raised hand button. Please click on that gray raised hand button. This will signal to the host that you would like to provide public comment, and you'll be added to the list. If you're using Zoom on your smartphone, tap your screen. A new screen will pop up with a list of the participants. Look for the raised hand button on the screen. And for our viewers who are not viewing but using the telephone, you can hit *9 on your keypad to signal that you would like to make a comment. And to withdraw your request, all you have to do is simply hit *9 again. So we're going to continue on now. Item 3 is our invocation. This will be led by Pastor Chris Thompson. Pastor, are you with us? There you are. I see you. And then if you could all remain standing at the end of the invocation for item 4, which will be our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Rabb.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Lord, I just thank you for an opportunity for this group of people to come together tonight, and for everyone who has come here on Zoom to participate in this meeting. Lord, we pray that you bring wisdom to this group as they continue to lead our city. They continue to lead just groups that are under their hand. Lord, I ask that you please keep us in a right direction. Bring them wisdom. Lord, be with us as we continue to move through this pandemic. Keep your hand over our city. We pray all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me as we pledge allegiance to our nation's flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor, for leading us on your invocation. Item 5 is a report on closed session items. Mr. Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor. The council met in closed session to discuss the item of existing litigation noted on the agenda, and no reportable action was taken tonight.
Thank you. Item 6 is presentations and announcements. 6A is recognition of the Inland Empire Fire Devils for their participation in the American Youth Federation 2020 National Championship. And that will be introduced by myself. So if everybody can recall, last year, sometime in November, I believe it was, I was contacted by a Raylene Ruelas. She is the athletic director for the Paris Panthers youth football team. At that point, she had informed me that some of our youth, our children, our young boys, young athletes here who had just finished the Panther program and is transitioning into the high school level were selected, 4 boys, to participate in this American Youth Federation tournament of football in Florida. So obviously, as you know, it's not cheap to send people out clear across the United States. So they were seeking some sponsorship for 3 of the young boys. And our engineering department, Interwest Consulting Group, led by the Chief Executive Officer Terry Rodriguez, and with the help of Pamela, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, Ugar. She's the Director of Interwest Community Foundation. They sponsored 3 of the young men to attend this awesome tournament. And this was going to be a week-long activity. It wasn't just a football game. The Youth Federation was going to take them around town out there and just give them a good time. And it was going to cover, each child needed $1,000. It would cover the flight, the hotel, meals, all the activities that they did. So this team was comprised of the outstanding athletes in our region, so throughout the southwest region of Riverside, and 4 of the young boys were our very own that came out of our Pop Warner football team. So the boys' names again, so everybody can recall, is David Cabanillas, Anthony Boone, Camden Connor Palos, and Anthony Ruelas. And then one of our coaches also participated in coaching, was David Canabillas as well. So I just wanted to bring them back because not only did these boys have a good time and go over and participate in this tournament, the Inland Empire Sun Devils is what they're called, the team name. They ended up taking first place in this tournament in Florida. So I wanted to acknowledge them. I think that's very awesome for these young boys to have gone out, and in particular our 4 representing Paris, and not only to just go out there and have fun, but to ultimately win this tournament in first place. So I wanted just to bring them back and commend them. And so they should be online with us. So I'm going to ask for David Canabillas first. David, are you online? Can you hear me? Oh, there he is. You want to unmute yourself, son, and just give a little shout out? Don't be embarrassed, David. You're on mute. You're on mute, David.
My name is David Cabanillas. I played center at the time. I just want to give a shout out to my mom, my dad, and the whole, Paris community.
Awesome.
For all you guys' support.
Look at the size of that young man. Huh? You can look at that neck. He looks like a football player. You wearing shoulder pads, or is that your actual body there?
No, that's my body.
Jesus. I see some future in there for football from you. Thank you, David. Okay, how about Anthony Boone? Anthony, you with us? Anthony? IT, do you see an Anthony Boone on the screen?
Yes, Mayor, he should be joining as a panelist.
Hello,
Oh, there you are, Anthony. How are you doing, buddy?
good and you?
Great. You want to give a little shout out?
I'll give a shout out to my family and friends and City of Paris for helping me, go out to Florida and play football.
Excellent. What position did you play?
I played wide receiver and cornerback.
Wide receiver and cornerback or quarterback?
Corner.
Cornerback. Very good. Awesome. All right. How about Camden Connor Palos? You with us? Oh, I see the screen there. There you go. Welcome, Camden. How are you?
Good, and you?
Great. Want to give a little shout out?
Yes. I give a shout out to my friends, family, whole Paris community for for giving me a chance to go out and do what I love.
What position do you play?
Quarterback, safety, receiver.
Very good. All right, awesome, welcome. Anthony Ruelas. Anthony, you out there?
Yeah.
You got the microphone, go ahead. Got anything you want to say?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I want to say thank you to the businesses and all that sponsored this trip for all of us. And thanks to the community for supporting us in all of this. And we can actually go and play, especially in a tough time like this.
I don't see him, he's on the phone. Oh, there he is. What position did you play, Anthony?
I played outside linebacker or running back.
Very good, awesome. All right, Coach Canabias, how do you say your last name, Coach? Cabañas?
It's Cabanillas.
Cabanillas.
Yes, sir.
All right, Coach, you want to give a few words?
Yeah, I'd like to thank just the city of Paris, for supporting these young men. It was a great experience, for these young men, and they went out there and handled business, man. And if it wasn't for you guys, for the great support, it would have been really tough to get them out there. And we really appreciate you guys.
That's awesome. So the real big shout out goes to our Interwest Consulting Group, the engineering firm that the city contracts with. Interwest is the one that really funded this whole program for your boys to get out there. And we do have online Terry Rodriguez. He's the CEO. Terry, did you want to say a couple of words?
Well, I just wanted to congratulate these four young men and the whole team and the coach who went out there and represented the Paris community so great, and obviously won the tournament. I also want to just say one thing that I do know, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Rob, and the rest of the council members in the city of Paris. One thing that's consistent with everything that I've seen you do, as well as the staff, is your passion for young people in the community and helping young people in the community excel at whatever they want to do. So I just feel super fortunate that we're able to work in such a great community. And whenever we can do a really small part and feel like my football career is continuing and I'm now part of a championship team, then it's great for us. It makes our employees feel good, and it just makes us feel even more proud to be part of the community of Paris. So thank you for the opportunity to help these young men, and I'm super proud of them. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Terry. We really appreciate your business partnership and the community outreach. It's very much appreciated. And just so everybody knows, all the boys received a certificate from the mayor and city council, which read that the mayor and city council of the city of Paris hereby recognizes and congratulates Anthony Boone for his achievements, hard work, and dedication to the Inland Empire Fire Devils and participation in the American Youth Federation 2020 National Championships in Kissimmee, I believe is the name, Florida. And each one of the boys received that, and the coach received an acknowledgement where the mayor and the council of City of Paris hereby recognizes and congratulates Coach David Cabanillas for his leadership, hard work, and dedication to the Inland Empire Fire Devils and participation in the American Youth Federation 2020 National Championships in Florida. So, unfortunately, this is the normal right now, being on Zoom, but at least I wanted to recognize and let our city know about our boys and what they did and what they achieved in going out to Florida. And again, big thank you to our engineering consultant firm, Interwest Consulting Groups. With that concludes the presentation. I don't know if any council members had any comments. Please let me know. Raise your hand.
Yes, Mayor, if I could add.
Sure.
Okay, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Terry for investing back into our community and to our youth, and a big shout out to the four young men who made our community proud. A big shout out also to Mr. David Cabanillas. I saw a name, and I saw David Cabanillas, and the name stuck out to me because David Cabanillas was a great football player at Paris High School. I believe a 2000 graduate. And he was a good football player, unfortunately on a not so great football team. But it's great that he's going back to the community. He's training his son and also other youth, and it's just great to see that continuing. And I'm sure your son is gonna do very well. And I know that you post all the videos, and you're a very dedicated father, and just great to see that. And a big shout out to all the parents too. That's it for me. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Rodriguez for helping these young men out. I also like to thank the parents for their commitment to the young men, and just the overall community, and thank for the young men for making Paris proud. I see a few of you. I see Amanda Connor and Camden. I've known you guys for a while. Sounds like your Uncle Ray actually right now. So I just want to congratulate the young men. May you have success in your future endeavors, and make football your passion in your life, but also supplement that with the love of learning and a love of just expounding your horizons as a person. So once again, congratulations.
Anybody else? Councilwoman Magana.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you to NOS for providing this opportunity to our athletes. I'm sure it's a trip that they will forever remember, and I'm sure plenty of memories were made. Coach Cabanillas and the rest of the team, you made us very proud. And I am happy to have this opportunity to have you all come out and say hello. And this is just perfect practice for when you go pro, right? And you're doing the interview. So just remember where you started practicing that first here in the city of Paris. And thank you all so much. Keep making us proud.
Great. Councilwoman Rogers, you like, okay?
Yes. I want to congratulate you guys for going out of town and representing Paris and letting them know that P-Town is in the house. I want to thank Terry for being a terrific sponsor and helping the young men achieve their dreams by going out of town to play in a championship game. And I'm seeing you guys representing all those Super Bowl rings on your fingers. You guys are living large. So congratulations for doing a great job and representing the city of Paris. P-Town.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 7, approval of minutes. 7A is a consideration to approve the minutes of the regular joint meeting held on January 26, 2021 of the City Council, Successor Agency to the Redevelopment Agency, and all the other entities as listed on our agenda. If there are no comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, I motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Magana, second by,
I'll
I will
second.
that. Oh, whoever.
second by Councilwoman Rita Rogers. Call the vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 8 is our consent calendar. Consent calendar are items that are normally enacted in one motion. The mayor or the city council may remove a consent calendar item for a separate action. We will allow public comment, which will be limited to 3 minutes. Does any council member have any comments or questions or something you'd like to pull? Don't see anybody. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
No, sir.
Anybody at this time wishing to speak? IT, anybody?
No, sir.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Magana,
I'll second.
second by Councilwoman Rogers. Please call the vote, roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb, Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
He's signaling a thumbs up. He's having a tough time getting to his microphone.
He's muted.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Okay, item 9 is our public hearings. 9A is consideration to adopt the first reading of ordinance number next in order, resolution number next in order regarding the Green Valley Specific Plan amendments and related entitlements for the property located along the northerly frontage of Ethanak Road between Getz Road and Case Road. The applicant is Matthew Villalobos and Raintree Investments Corporation. This is going to be introduced by our Interim Director of Development Services, Candida Neal.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. The presentation tonight will be made by Senior Planner Nathan Paras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for having me here tonight. Tonight, we are here to consider the Green Valley Specific Plan project. And I'd like to give some background information about this specific plan. It was actually approved by the Paris City Council in 1990. And yes, it's actually 30 years old. It's a master plan community totaling 1,269 acres, envisioned to construct 4,210 dwelling units. Recently, Riverside County Flood Control District constructed Line A, which made development viable. Also, there's actually 2 tracks in construction. One of the tracks is being currently built by KB Homes, and the other one's actually being built by Richmond American Homes. The specific plan is located in South Paris along the City of Menifee city limits. The project is located at the northeast corner of Ethanak Road and Getz Road, south of Case Road. The proposed project sites shown in the red outline are currently vacant, with the exception of the 2 tracks that are in construction, which are shown in the blue outline, which I mentioned earlier. It's being constructed by KP Homes and Richmond American Homes. Here's the slide depicting the original versus the proposed land use map side to side. Please note that no changes to the land use plan are proposed north of Watson. For the table, the approved 1990 specific plan included 1,824 units south of Watson, and the proposed specific plan now has a total of 1,465 dwelling units, which has 359 fewer units. Here's the tract map overview slide. There are 3 single-family residential tract maps. The first one is tract map 37262. The second one is tract map 37222. The third is tract map 37223. And there's also 3 multifamily tract maps, which include tract map 37816, tract map 37817, and tract map 37818. Overall, the amount of dwelling units proposed is 1,241 dwelling units. And this is an example of the architecture, which is a single-family cluster. And this is an example of the apartment architecture, which is Spanish style. This is the Green Valley Park, which is located just north of Richmond American Homes. And phase 1, which is depicted with the improvements, will start construction with the 100 building permit. And phase 2, which is depicted in the lighter shaded area of the exhibit, will start construction in the 650 building permit. And also an MOU for this park will be brought for consideration to the City Council at a later date based on these construction milestones. Also, an EIR addendum was prepared and determined that the specific plan amendment would not result in any new or more significant impacts than were previously disclosed or analyzed in the original EIR. So in conclusion, staff recommends, and also the Planning Commission recommends, that the City Council introduce the first reading reading of ordinance number next in order, adopting the specific plan 18-05292, and also adopt resolution next in order to approve the 6 track maps and also 3 development plan reviews as described in the slide. This concludes my presentation. Also, the applicant, Nick Johnson, representing Raintree, is here, and he would like to make a presentation to the council.
Alrighty. You're on, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Nick Johnson, representing the Raintree team, our entire project team. Nathan, thank you for that great presentation. I'm going to share my screen, and I have, let's see if I can pull up my presentation. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. So Nathan did a great job, as he has done all along, and all of the staff. We'd really like to say thank you to all the staff in the city who have worked so hard continuing this project moving forward. This really is an exciting project. It's a continuation of a long endeavor, both by the city and by Raintree to bring this project forward. This collaboration, working with the city, has been one where the city has worked hard to, as Nathan stated, that the specific plan is more than 30 years old, but Raintree came in about 5 years ago, and over the last 5 years has invested nearly $70 million in infrastructure to bring this project forward and make it what is becoming today. As I walk through this, I think what I'd like to focus on tonight, again, Nathan did such a great job of talking about the details of the project. What we see of the future for Green Valley, we call it live, work, play Paris. Green Valley is really what's next in Paris. When we talk about living Paris, Paris has really become a place for a new lifestyle within the community, a convenience with low stress living, bringing down driving, less pollution, less miles traveled, more walking, biking, healthier lifestyles with parks and all the amenities that you've been working so hard to create, closer to neighborhoods, friends, and family. Closer to Metrolink, the new Metrolink stop in South Paris is right at our doorstep with this project. So living in Paris, this project really is trying to emulate that lifestyle by focusing on families, focusing on school, bringing forward a school site as part of this development, very large development area. Being with our friends, being able to spend time in the community. Working in Paris, all the hard things that you've been doing as a community to build Paris in education, in your logistics infrastructure that you're putting in place, in increasing the use of technology within the city, and all the great things that you've been working hard to create in the other parts of Paris so that folks can work and live in the community together. And then playing Paris lifestyle. Nobody plays harder or better, as we heard tonight, than Paris. It was great to hear about our young football players coming forward and doing great things. And that starts in our parks and the network of community that we create. This project, as you heard Nathan bring forward, has major park amenities. Over 30 acres of major park development with soccer fields, baseball diamonds, trails that many of which have already been constructed as part of the infrastructure. So playing Paris is a big part of what this project is all about. And as Nathan also said, Paris lifestyle is already taking shape. We already have 2 track maps that were approved a couple of years ago and that are fully under construction. KB Homes has the Stone Creek project, which is 75% sold. There's only 11 lots remaining. Hurry, get your lot. Richmond American Homes, their Seasons development right next door already has 73 lots sold. And at the rate that they're going, we're only talking about another year or a little longer worth of lots at that rate of sales. So they're going fast, and it's time to get these maps approved so that we can get on with the next phase of development. So as Paris lifestyle is taking shape, here's a quick, this is about a 2-minute video. It gives you an overview. It's hard sometimes to, you lose a sense of scale and the size of the property, but hopefully this aerial shoot will give you kind of an idea of what we're talking about. So let me just play this for you. These are the Ethonac Road improvements that have already been made. Along the north side of Ethonac already have trails and sidewalks in place. Again, as we talked about, a major part of the ongoing trail development within the city. As Nathan also pointed out, to the right, you see the drainage channel that made a lot of this possible by providing fill dirt to bring up the site and get it out of the floodplain. And you see the homes off to the right under construction, and some already being lived in. As we come up to the corner of Getz Road and make the turn to the north, you see more of Paris, South Paris starting to develop. The project is all off to our right here. And then as we turn and kind of see the mountains off in the distance and what's becoming of kind of the backbone of coming up on Green Valley Parkway and where the parks will be located and homes already constructed, many under construction now. Again, crossing over the drainage channel. Off to our left is where the major park improvements that Nathan pointed out just a little bit ago will be located. And you can see lots of construction ready to go. So more is ready. These next track maps that we're talking about tonight are all around the property, as you saw, and will continue on this development long into the future. So that's just kind of a quick overview of what's underway right now. Let's see if we can shoot past that. So just to conclude, I'd just like to say, that this really is an exciting time for us. It's an exciting time for the city of Paris, and we're really fortunate to have you as a partner and as a collaborator in this development. We thank the staff for everything that they've been doing along the way to help make this possible. Ms. Miramontes, has also provided great leadership to the team. We've worked with her throughout the process. Nathan, Kenneth Fung, Candida, working with us now as well. So this is a real opportunity to move this forward. Again, living, working, playing the Paris lifestyle. Council members, I'm happy to be here with you tonight, and any questions that you have, happy to answer them. We also have our team on the phone and available as well. So any questions that you have about the project, we'd love to entertain them.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate your presentation. That aerial viewing was very helpful. Okay, if I can get there we go. Council, before I open up the public hearing, does anybody have any questions or comments? Don't see any on wave. So, Nathan, can we go back to the slide presentation that you had where it referenced the phase 1 and phase 2 by numbers, 100 permits, and the next number, I forget what it was. Great. So right there. So I just want to be, fully transparent to our viewers and listeners, because that's going to be a really nice, big, beautiful park. And Phase 1 starts with the 100 building permit, and what basically this, after the 100th permit for a home has been pulled, and that would start Phase 1. And Phase 2 is after the 650th building permit, which is issued to a home. So just point of clarification is all I wanted to do. Okay, so since nobody had any comments or questions, I will now open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
Yes, sir. Patrick, your mic is on.
This is Patrick Parker from Raintree. Thank you so much for your consideration this evening. This is just step 2. I think step 1 we all see there. Step 2 is now 6 new track maps, a lot of different price points. We're very excited about attainable living for different families, different ages, different stages in their lives. So we are here to answer any questions, but just want to say thanks.
Thank you, Pat. We appreciate that. Anybody else, IT?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll close public hearing. And I'll now call for a motion on the first reading of the ordinance and resolution.
Make a motion to approve.
Mayor Pro
Second.
Tem. Okay, Rita.
Booker.
Councilwoman Rogers motions and Mayor Pro Tem seconds. Please call roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Rapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 10 is our business items. 10A is a consideration and discussion regarding switching from at-large city council elections to district elections. And this will be introduced by our city attorney, Mr. Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As everyone knows, the city of Paris is a general law city with a directly elected mayor and all the council members elected at large. There's been discussions over the years, and recently Councilmember Corona asked to just have this item on here so the council can discuss whether the council wants to switch to district-based elections. There's there's nothing tonight that would commit the city to do anything or commit to any timeline whatsoever. This is just to get your guidance on whether you want to start down the road on that process. Basically, there are several different options, but I think what we're talking about here is whether to shift to a system where there would be the directly elected mayor, and then there would be 4 districts where council members are elected by their districts. And what that means is that only the people in that district would vote for that council member. So if you're, I live in Marina Valley, as most of you know, so it would be similar to that. It would be the mayor's elected at large, and then 4 council members are elected by their districts. It would be, in fact, it would be exactly like Marina Valley. If you do give us the direction to go forward, there's just a process to do it. You can't just draw the maps and then put them out there. Before you draw the maps at all, there has to be a couple of public hearings, 2 public hearings. It used to be that, well, the law itself says that the public hearings have to be held within 30 days, but there's some executive orders by the governor that kind of put a tolling period on that process. So it's not clear that you would need to hold those hearings within the same 30 days. So it's a little vague right now, but we would, if the council decides to go this way, we would obviously figure that out. Once you do, and I've been through this process before, but once you do the hearings and you come up with a map, usually you have a consultant that helps you with the map, because the districts need to be drawn in ways that don't violate the Constitution. They have to be drawn in geographic boundaries, sort of equivalent population boundaries. You try to do them topographically if necessary, by streets if necessary, basically so that you're drawing them that make sense. So for example, in Moreno Valley, I live in District 2, which is all of the area north of the 60, which Carla Thornton represented before she passed. So it's kind of like, but you can see a line like that. So you would draw these districts in a certain way. And then after you get a map, you could put a map out, and then you do another hearing process for another 45 days, and you invite the public to submit maps. So when I've gone through this process before, members of the public are welcome to come and say, well, this is how I think it should be. I wasn't involved in Menifee, but I know when they did it, there were maybe 20 maps from the public brought to different kind of versions to look at the different maps. And then, so then eventually you get to a part where you choose the map. And again, it has to comply with all of the constitutional provisions. This can be done by the council only, does not require a vote of the citizens. And so there is another thing that came around recently is that there's a new Assembly Bill 849. I mentioned Moreno Valley because they switched to districts. They changed the districts around a few years ago. It used to be that you could do that, but the new Assembly Bill 849 says that once you switch to the districts, then you cannot change the districts until the next decennial census for the whole United States. And the only exceptions to that is if you get a court order, or you're settling a lawsuit, or if you add territory to the city. So if the council does give us direction to go forward, and if you do make the change, then that's what the district boundaries will be, those boundaries you draw until the next census 10 years from now, unless there's a lawsuit. And that's regardless of whether the Green Valley project you just heard gets built, so that you could have another 1,000 residents in South Paris, but that doesn't change the boundaries of the district. They just go on and you live with that until the next census 10 years from now. It wasn't like that a few years ago, but AB 849 changed that. So the question here is whether you want to go forward, and then whether you want to do it for the 2022 election or the 2024 election, or not do it at all. It's probably going to take about a year given the COVID restrictions. We have to wait for the census to finish, still not finalized. Need to hire a consultant, probably the same person that the council hired before about 4 years ago. And then come up with districts that will meet all the constitutional requirements, have the hearing process, decide the maps, and you could, if that's the council's direction, could get all that done by next summer in time for the 2022 election. And that concludes my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, any comments or questions?
Yes, I have a few questions.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dunn, for that great presentation. Question, I read in the staff report we'd have to hire a demographer to assist us in drawing the lines. Do you know how much those are going for in terms of, do we have like cost estimates, how much it would cost to hire a demographer in terms of drawing the district boundaries if we were to decide to go that route?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and having gone through this before, it's probably $8,000 to $12,000, 8 to 15, something like that.
Okay, and this is just a general question for staff. Is there any date that we anticipate receiving the census data so we can make an accurate determination of the districts, or when we draw the districts, that they're divided equally among the population?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Rab, the census data was supposed to have been released in January, but they are delayed. They were originally looking in February, probably closer to March at this point, but we don't have a definitive date at this time.
Okay, and then just one other question for staff. With the census data comes reapportionment for the people watching at home. Reapportionment is done every 10 years where the state assembly, state senate, and congressional lines are redrawn in proportion to the census. For instance, California, I believe, has 53 congressional seats, and we've been gaining one each census. We are thinking we're going to hold steady this census. Is there any indication as to when the statewide commission will come back with the reapportionment results for our Paris districts, the 31st Congressional District, the Senate District, and the 61st Assembly District?
Yes, usually those do come about accompanied with the census data information, but we don't have a date at this time. Unless, Eric, you may know, Council.
I do not know.
Okay. Those are just my questions, my general concerns. If I can go briefly into that. I think right now, without going into the merits of whether or not Paris should switch into district elections, I think it's too premature to start that process, to start that discussion. One, we are still in the pandemic. In order to go toward a district election, we would have to have open meetings, which allow the public to come in. I think it's premature to start moving forward on that without having a meeting where the public can actually come in and face us face to face and give their concerns regarding districts. My other concern is going forward with reapportionment. We are to move forward with districts. We do not have the census data to know how many people actually live within the city of Paris at the time. Councilwoman Rogers could join in. I believe in 2010, the city was estimating that there were approximately 56,000 people in the city. But when the census came back, that number was up to 68,000. And I think right now we're estimating, 79,000, 80,000 people. I would hate to be in a situation where we move forward based on our projections, then our projections are off by 5, maybe even 10,000 people. And then my last concern is regarding, once again, reapportionment. If we're dividing the city among districts, say, okay, this area is council district number 4, and then the reapportionment committee comes back and says, okay, half of Paris is going to be in this state assembly district, another half is going to be in this assembly district. We're going to divide in terms of congressional district or board of supervisory districts. So you could have a council district where one councilman represents the district, but that district is divided among the board of soups, the state assembly person, the congressional person, making it more confusing for the voter of Paris. So given those reasons, given the pandemic that has claimed 155 Paris lives in the last year, given the fact that people are not able to come in and give their concerns regarding district elections, given the fact that we have not received census data at this time, we cannot make an accurate determination as to how many individuals live in this city, and given the fact that the state has not come with the reapportionment lines for congressional, state assembly, board of supervisors. Given all those factors together, I think it's premature to move forward on this item. I would make a motion, and we could have a comment from all my colleagues, that we continue this matter to September of this year. By that time, the governor's emergency order should be lifted. We should have the census data, and we should have the reapportionment numbers regarding the city of Paris. And that will conclude my comments for this time being.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilwoman Rogers?
Thank you, Mayor. We've discussed this several times in the past, and we discussed it a couple of years ago, and I still have the demographics with the maps that we already paid for about 3 years ago to do this. And it was done by National Demographic Corporation. And at that time, we determined, because our population was still below $100,000, that it didn't warrant the city of Paris to go through districts. But I definitely agree with Mayor Pro Tem Rabb. If we are going to have the discussion, we need to have the actual data, and the data is not provided to us because the census has not been completed and it's been delayed. We need to have the actual facts, because obviously these maps will no longer be sufficient, and we'd have to go back and pay again to have other maps drawn with the new data and with the new projected houses that will be developed. We just approved about so many thousand houses that we need to have incorporated in our discussion. So I'm for continuing this item as well. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Magana?
Yes, I had a question for City Attorney Eric. You mentioned that this does not require a vote from citizens. What are some scenarios that would require a public vote?
Thank you, Councilmember Magana. This is a decision that could be done either by a council ordinance resolution, or the council could put this on the ballot. So while it's not required to put it on the ballot, the council could definitely do that. They could decide whether you want to have, 4 or 6 districts, for example, because you just have to have an odd number of elected officials. But so I hope that answers the question. You could choose to just not do it yourselves, but put it on the ballot and let the voters decide. There would still be a public process, though, because there still needs to be maps drawn. And the maps have to comply with all the constitutional provisions and the geography and the topography and the things that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, thank you. That does answer my question. And that drives me to my next point. The agenda mentioned that there should be at least one draft map. And my recommendation to staff would be to have several renditions of the map that we propose to our residents, rather than having individual residents propose their own maps, right? Because like you just mentioned, Eric, we have to make sure that it meets certain standards. And with that in mind, I want to make sure that we are able to, promote that amongst community when residents are at the parks, when they are attending community events. And that, I agree, will be challenging to do because we are in a state of emergency and Governor Newsom's orders aren't yet lifted. So that's something that I feel is really important to have public participation in establishing which district maps they feel would be better suited for our community. And as was mentioned in the agenda, we are not binded by any certain deadline. So to me, I understand this as the plan to move forward. And as long as we don't have a deadline or have to make any type of decisions before being able to work with the public, then I am okay with making sure that we are on that path to create districts for the city of Paris.
Thank you. Councilman Corona?
Yes, I do have a question for Mr. Dunn. So when we talk about the census and the mapping of the census, we're talking about at that moment, right? At 2020, the census took place. In a year from now, we see that there's going to be growth in certain parts of Paris, up north, down south, but those numbers won't be included. Is that my understanding?
That is correct, Council Member Corona. This is a fairly new law in the last couple of years. It's Assembly Bill 849, and I'll try to read it to you, but it says, after districting pursuant to the certain sections, the council shall not adopt new council district boundaries until after the next federal decennial census, except under the following circumstances, which is a court order, settling a claim in response to a lawsuit, or if you add territory. So if you actually annexed in territory. This was not the law a few years ago, but now the law is that once you get the census numbers and go to districting, then you don't change until the next census, with those certain exceptions. Doesn't matter if 1,000 people move into Green Valley, it stays the same.
Okay. So, I guess my comments would be, I actually agree with my colleagues on this. I do believe that we need to do it after the census. It makes sense, which is why I proposed it this year. What the census just took place is very fresh. We just had an election. So it does make sense to wait for the results of the election. I definitely absolutely agree with that. Where I might disagree with the Mayor Pro Tem Rab is maybe waiting to September. I do want public involvement in the process. Absolutely. I did propose about 2 years ago that we do take it to a vote to the residents. It was voted down by my colleagues. But as I walked down the streets and knocked on the doors, a lot of residents, they kept bringing it up. And, I think they're fully, with the majority of them are in support of this. So I believe that when we do get the results from the census, that we do kind of continuously bring it back, just like Councilwoman Magana did state. And we also do get community involvement, but I don't want the process to die out. If the majority of the council wants to continue, I think we should continue, but as soon as we find out what the census results are and the apportionment as well too, it definitely makes sense. So I definitely agree with my colleagues on that portion. That's pretty much it for me though. But there's never going to be a perfect time to do it. In a year from now, obviously we see that there's going to be lots of growth, but I don't want to wait till 10 years. And then if we wait too long, then people are just going to say, hey, why don't we just wait till the next census? And so if we could just start the process, that's kind of my views on that. Thank you.
Councilman Rab, did you have another comment? I thought I heard you.
I think Councilman Corona answered my question. I was wondering his thoughts on reapportionment, if we should wait for the census and for direction from the state regarding reapportionment for Congressional Assembly, Board of Supervisor lines, et cetera.
Okay.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So I'm not. I know somebody answered it, but can you tell me exactly when that was going to come about? The apportionment.
I think Ms. Miramontes answered it. It typically happens after the census. I know in California,
That's
statewide
right.
appointed commission. So we're probably talking. I know it's probably somewhere. I remember summer of 2011 is when they first started releasing the information regarding the 2010 census. That's why I proposed September, because we typically go to one meeting a month in July and August. And I know the August meeting is typically crowded because we have that gap. So I figured the September meeting would be the earliest time we could actually start moving forward if we decide to go forward on this discussion.
Okay. Councilman Corona, you're done?
Yes, Mayor, I am.
Okay. So I'm not 100% sure about the apportionment. I don't know if we could physically draw lines around between a congressman and a senator and assemblyman and county supervisor. I mean, that's I think it's difficult enough just to going along the size of our city plus our population. I do agree that I would like to wait for the census to be done as well, but that doesn't mean we can't start talking or start working on things now to move forward. My whole issue behind supporting districts is, and I've always said it from the get-go, is just accountability, is having someone responsible for every piece of land in our city so that we make sure that we are all uniform on what we're doing and every piece is being taken care of, looked after. Population-wise, we're a medium-sized, good-sized city, and we've got much, much smaller cities, Banning, whose districts, I think they only have 30,000 people. So we're there already, and the fact that the city is so linear makes it even more difficult to keep track of. I live on the very north end, and it takes me 22 minutes via freeway just to get to the south end. So we have a lot of territory to cover, and having districts can help bridge that connection and making sure that all of our areas in Paris are well represented and looked after. Councilman Corona, I think, mentioned it, and it's right on target. We're never going to be ready as far as homes. We are on a good trend right now building homes, so even after the census is done, those numbers are going to keep changing every year in Paris until the next 10 years, until the next census is done. So we're here now already. I do agree with as far as public participation in the process is going to be blocked right now because of the pandemic, and I do want and we need our public participation in this. But that being said, there's no reason to be waiting 6-7 months down the road. We should be able to tell staff, give them some direction to start looking and doing whatever we need to start doing to get the ball rolling. Doesn't hurt to be, prepared. So those are my comments. There is no action here, but do you need a consensus, Mr.
Yes,
Dunn?
Mayor, we're actually, we are looking for direction as to whether we set this aside for a while, continue it, or start down the process.
Okay,
It will be slow because we need to wait for the census data.
Right.
And reapportionment, which is a very good point by Councilmember Rab. And then we would need to get a consultant and
that's
start
why,
looking at the numbers.
that's my whole point, is that there's things that can start rolling, that we can start the motion going. Doesn't mean we're doing it, it's just we're starting, we're not making a vote today, say, yes, we're going districts, but to start the ball rolling. Let me see if there's any public comment, Council, before we ask for a motion. Madam Clerk, do we have any public members wishing to comment on this?
No, sir.
IT, is there anybody standing by online or anything?
Yes, sir. Alex Marin, your mic is on.
Mr. Marin, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, you're on. Go ahead, sir. You got 3 minutes.
Hi, I just wanted to mention something. I got bored one night and I wanted to see how many homes were being sold in the previous 6 months, 3 months. And I found that there were 300 homes sold in the last 3 months. That's after the census deadline. So Paris is going pretty quickly. We've not only Paris, but also the outside. We're gaining a lot of traffic and Paris is being more known. So that was just a comment I wanted to make. Now I have a question. How are these districts going to be sorted out? Like as more people come in, more communities are built, are there more districts being built, or are they just going to be added into districts that are already, made or have been built?
Okay, this is not a Q&A at this point. It's just a public comment. You have a right 3 minutes to make any comment, but it's not a discussion back and forth, sir.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. You're more than welcome to call on any of the council members or myself after the fact, and we'd be more than happy to discuss the item with you.
Okay, that's pretty much all I had to say. I just want to say that
Very
Paris
good.
is growing at an alarming rate.
Well, I appreciate that. I think we're all excited about that. Paris is definitely on the move, and thank you for taking the time to make your comment.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else, IT?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll close public comments. I'll go back to council, entertain some direction here for staff.
Yes. I'd make a motion that we table this until September or when the reapportionment lines are finalized, whichever comes first.
I'll second that motion.
All right, roll call vote, please.
So Mayor, real quick, are we not discussing? We're just voting right now.
You have something to discuss?
Well, I'm not sure what the process is. I mean, if there was a motion and a second, then I think we should vote, but I just wanted to kind of give my opinion on that. But I mean, I think it's fair to take that just to a vote right now.
And
I mean, that's
normally,
process.
when there's a motion and a second, then it's up for debate.
Right.
And then at some point, the mayor will call the question.
Okay, so I could discuss it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I guess I just want to kind of counter that motion, just say after the census, we kind of just revisit it, that we continuously revisit it. I think September is a bit too far. It might be the right time, but until, as soon as we get the census results and, the mayor did bring a good point about it might be impossible if there are lines that are being drawn around supervisors and stuff. Here in the city, we have four school districts. So do we match those up to the school districts? And, it might be very challenging on that part. So I think it's fair to say to match it up with the, after the census. I'm sure we're not going to do the process before the reapportionment, but I think we kind of revisit it after we get the census results, and then so that we don't stall the process.
And I will say, having been through this before in a couple of different agencies and cities, you really don't draw them based on the school district boundaries. You draw them geographically. Let's say there's 80,000 people who live in Paris. You chunk it into blocks of, if there's 4 districts, there's each district has 20,000. Doesn't have to be exact, but it needs to be within like 5% or so. And it needs to be something that people can kind of understand and not gerrymandered throughout the city to pick up a school district or whatnot. So you'd have South Paris, you'd have North Paris, you'd have downtown Paris, it would be something that would be kind of obvious.
Right, I mean, that's.
With the population roughly equal to start, and then the population can change over the next 10 years. And then after the next census, you redo it again.
And I use the term reapportionment, or I said reapportionment or September, whichever comes first. If we look at 10 years ago, reapportionment, the lines have been finalized in July. And we're not straitjacketed by those lines, but I do think they're helpful. If, say, for instance, the people on the south end of Paris are pushed into a congressional district or a state assembly district with Marietta, I think it's important to know those lines as we move forward, because you don't want certain people in certain districts, a congressional district, a board of suits district. Just to be honest, most people don't know who their the congressperson is, their state assembly person is, their council person is. So I think it's important to have that knowledge as we move forward. So I said whatever comes first, if it's reapportionment or September.
But my position behind that, your last comment though, is I'm more concerned about local government and drawing lines based on our population and our demographics, not based on the senator's lines, the assemblyman's lines. This is about Paris and being districting and taken care of. So I don't agree with waiting till September or portions. I agree with what Councilman Corona is saying, is once the census numbers are out, then we can really start, moving the ball a little faster or towards this goal of what we're going to do. Anybody else have a comment? Councilwoman Rogers.
Yes. In the document that we did in 2017, there were a number of maps that were done that we already paid for. But the key part was there were 5 districts maps, 4 district maps. So in order to determine whether we're even going to consider 5 or 4 districts, we need input from the public. And without the public being able to gather now, because of COVID, it makes it very difficult. So I think we really want to consider taking some time for the census and giving the public, we've just started the vaccine distribution within the last month, giving people a chance in our community to get their double dose of vaccines so they can feel more comfortable coming to public settings so we can give their input. Because without knowing how the public feel about these different things, we don't know what to do without their input. And I don't want to proceed without the public's input. I think that's a very good point because it affects them and their representation. And that's what we're elected to do, is to represent our constituents. So I think we do want to take some time to give them the opportunity to be able to be out. And so I think the longer time period would be wise.
And I think you have pretty much all of us agreeing with it, that we want our community to give their input. I'm just trying not to be restricted because I'm waiting for the apportionment lines of Congress and Senate. And now this is based on local government here for now drawing our lines equally as what was mentioned by Councilman Corona. Any other comments? Councilwoman Magana.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Was one mentioned, I think we could all agree that we're waiting for the federal decennial census in order to get started. There's no questions about it. We want community input. We need community input. And then rather than having a fixated date of September, my feedback is as long as we can, the governor's orders have been lifted and we're able to do outreach. So in the meantime, there's several processes we could begin doing, such as virtual educational workshops. What are districts? What does that look like? What will we need from you when things are rolling out? There's some things that we can begin doing virtually that doesn't fixate us until September. So if this is something that we need and we understand that is a need in our community, and this goes back to having community input. If there's an issue in your neighborhoods, it would be easier for an individual to know who they need to reach out to. And I think the fact of educating our residents who in fact don't understand the levels of local government, state, federal, that's all within our position here to serve and to help and make those connections. And more so, districts for me are important because Paris is a really unique geographically stretched out area. And whatever you're more familiar with, your paths that you take coming in and out of home. And there's some parts that are up in the north or on the very south side that I don't practically see because I'm more in the center. That's where my home is, that's where my mother lives, and so forth and so on. So I think there's that to also keep in mind, that you want somebody who truly knows what it's like to drive through your streets, to see the graffiti there. So to me, it's fair representation and having somebody, like was mentioned in the agenda, from the district to serve the district. And I don't think there's any lapse of government or any type of miscommunication, because at the end of the day, whether a resident knows who their local city official is versus their, congressional representative, I think that's all in tune of wherever there is a need, we will meet. And so to me, I think it's really important, as with the public comment that was made, to begin the process of sharing what that looks like. And I'm sorry for a long stretched out comment, but I hope that, helps us reflect that there's really a lot to be said. The question that was brought up, I think maybe us in our capacity understand more so what that looks like. So now it's our goal to make sure that our community understands that as well. And as we know, it's something that's going to be a big deal, and we want to make sure that everyone knows and is very clear with what is coming if districts are something that are going to be rolling out. And that's not to say that we need to meet it by a definite deadline, no ways at all, but I know we need to get the ball rolling if this is something that we plan on implementing in the future. Of course, as long as the decennial census is out and as long as Governor Newsom's orders have been lifted. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Corona?
Yes, Mayor. I definitely appreciate the conversation. I know there's a lot of talk about community involvement. I'm all for that. I did more than about 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago, I proposed that we take it directly to the voters. So there's no more community involvement than the actual vote, and that got shot down. It never even went to the ballot at all. So I definitely appreciate that, but I think I think we need community involvement, but I've spoken to many community members, which is the reason why I brought this item up. But I think we should continue that process down. I know our staff does a great job about doing a lot of virtual polls and stuff like that, which our residents are doing pretty good about. I'm not opposed to discussing it in November, but my only concern is that it's just going to be kind of forgotten about. We're going to leave it out, which is why I just kind of wanted to possibly bring up the discussion again after the census. And then from there, we decide what we want to do. And it might be the best decision to bring it up in September, but I definitely want to bring it up in March or April, just to kind of see where we're at. So that's kind of where I kind of stand with that. But I definitely appreciate the conversation.
Thank you. Anybody else?
One quick question for my colleagues that are in favor of districts. When you mean districts, do you mean from districts or by districts? I know the staff report mentions from districts where candidates live in a particular area, but the city as a whole elects those candidates. In that scenario, I think council members will be accountable for the whole city. A council member would be able to vote, say yes on a warehouse, and then they'd be accountable for the people who live near that warehouse, even though they don't live near that warehouse. So just wanted to see the thoughts of my colleagues on that scenario.
So just my personal opinion on that, I think it's clear that we should do it by district. I think, in our entire country, whether you're voting for a state governor or you're voting for a congressional districts, it's the people within that area that are voting for it. I don't get to pick who the governor of Arizona is. And people in Arizona don't get to pick my governor either.
Well, I think that one issue is congressional elections. The person, as long as they live in the state, they're able to run for any particular congressional district. For instance, Maxine Waters doesn't live in her actual congressional district, but as a resident of California, she's able to run in that congressional district. I think the same thing was for Mr. Tom McClintock, who lived down here and ran in Northern California. So just to clarify that.
Right. No, yeah, I totally get that. But it's the people within the district that are voting for their district member. It's not the rest of California. I'm not voting for Maxine Waters or her opponent or whoever it is. I vote for my congressperson.
Mm-hmm.
So just to answer my personal opinion on that.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Dunn. Mr. Dunn, in light of the fact that we just had a recent election in 2020 and 3 members of the city council were voted at large, if we go to districts in 2022, what would happen to the at-large members?
Councilman Rogers, that is a great question, and I have gone through this in I intimately know this answer to this question. If you go to 2022 and have districts, then what you would do is stagger them. So 2 of the districts would be up for election in 2022. This is just a hypothetical. And whoever wins in those districts now starts serving their 4-year term for that district. The other people who are not up for election in that period of time continue to serve at large, even if they live literally next door to the person that's in that district, until the following election, that's when you clear it all up. So it takes a 2 election cycles before you have people living in separate districts. There's a weird 2-year period where you might have, 3 council members living in the same district. 2 of them are elected. One is elected in that district, and 2 of them are still at large. Very strange, but that's just how the process works. But no one loses their seat. If you just got elected, you serve your term at large until your term is up, and then that district votes for their member. So you might even have a situation where there's nobody elected in a district, but it clears up after 2 years. After 2 election cycles, it's all cleared up. I just went through that myself.
So then the earliest we could be a full district city would be 2024, is that correct?
Yes, in the sense that if you went 2022, you would have districts, and then people might live next to each other like they did in Menifee. If you remember Menifee, they had several people living in the same district. Well, you can't do that. And then in 2024, you would do another district election, and then people would be living in their different districts. So it's two election cycles with some awkward stuff for 2 years. I can tell you that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. To answer your question for Mr. Councilman Rab, I would also, I'm supporting by district. You need to live inside your district that the people are electing. I think that's important. That's the purpose of going to districts, is that you live in that area and you're going to be held accountable for that area. So that's my thoughts for you on that question. Anybody else have any comments? It's not charging anymore.
Yes, I do have
Councilman Corona?
quick comment. I know that Mayor Pro Tem Rab, he motioned and it was also seconded. I'm going to vote no on that, not because I'm against that per se, but because I would rather revisit this in about April and then decide from there whether we should see as a later date.
And I just have a question for that.
Yes.
Why April? What's the, if I may?
I don't want to say April, just after the census comes out, after the census results are out there, and we wait maybe a couple weeks after that. So I was just predicting April. If it comes out March, maybe about April-ish.
Okay,
so that's it.
Thank you. That's just my concern, that there's 2 things that are holding us up right here: the census and the pandemic. So that's the reason why I don't want to elect for a certain date. I want to make sure that, 1, we have the census, and that 2, the pandemic, soon enough, hopefully the governor's orders are lifted and we can resume to have community input. So those are my two speculations, and it's really hard to put a targeted date on that because we can't control this pandemic, as we clearly know. So when I make my vote, I want to make sure that we have these two things are accounted. The decennial census is out, and we are able to host community outreach events.
Given Councilwoman Magana's comments, and if Councilwoman Rogers is amenable to that, I would amend my motion to the 2 points that she mentioned, that the decennial census is out and the governor has lifted the emergency orders before we proceed.
Okay, but let me throw my 2 cents in there first. I hear what Councilwoman Magana is saying, and she mentioned it herself, that you can still start some processes via Zoom, because there's no telling when this pandemic when it's going to be lifted. Doesn't mean we can't start discussion. And again, because we're discussing doesn't mean we've approved to go districts. We're just merely discussing and having a community, reaching out to the community and getting their input from it. Just like we're doing these last couple of weekends, and even more so, community input on parks and what have you. So we're just getting input. So I agree with the waiting for the census, but there's no timeline to say when this pandemic or the orders and what have you will be lifted. Anybody else? Okay, so Councilman Rabb, you can either
Yes,
modify
would,
your.
okay.
Go ahead.
As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, I would modify my motion as to table this matter until the governor's emergency orders are lifted and the decennial census has been released.
Okay.
I will
Councilman,
amend my second to include that.
okay. Call a roll call vote, please.
I'm sorry for the continued dialogue. I still have questions with that. I think I'm a little bit confused because while we want to move forward with this process, I'm wondering if there's things that staff can do in the meantime. And then the portion of community input, it's when we are completely clear from any of the governor's stay-at-home orders. So if my recommendation is if there's anything staff can do along the way, virtually, and then when it comes to that section, so I don't know if that's throwing a wrench in the thing.
Kind of is, but that's up to the person who motioned, Councilman Rabb.
Mayor, are we allowed to ask staff if they think they could put virtual events? I mean, is that, because it's a very good point from Councilwoman Magana on that. I mean, is that, I actually agree with that. If the staff can't do anything virtually, then, we're saying to move forward, and if they can't do it.
I don't think we even have to ask staff. We have been doing quite a variety of tasks virtually. I mean, they have been phenomenal, but, but just to please the council, I will ask our our interim city manager to make a comment on that.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Given that we don't have census information, and I believe Councilwoman Magana had mentioned more of an educational outreach as far as getting input from the community, whether districting is something that the city should consider. And then we would also check with our legal counsel as to our limits of what kind of public outreach we can do, given that we don't have census information. And this item has been tabled to as soon as the order is lifted, the stay-home order is lifted. But as far as educational outreach within our guideline, within what we can legally, we can certainly start gathering that information.
And the law kind of puts a hitch into this because, and as I mentioned a couple times, I've been through this a few times. The law says that prior to drawing a potential map, you have to hold at least 2 public hearings. So the city cannot draw the maps until you have the public hearings. And I have found from personal experience that no one attends those public hearings because nobody knows what they're for and nobody sees a map. So they're kind of pointless. I mean, that's just my opinion. They're completely pointless. Until you have a map, you can't talk about it. But the law still says you need 2 public hearings before you have a map. And so until the governor lifts the orders, you can't really have those hearings. He might lift them tomorrow, or who knows?
That's why I think it's inevitable. We're not going to know when, and having a virtual conversation with our community, just like we do with our parks and other issues, that could be done through that medium. So, any other comments?
So a question on that, can the meetings be virtually, Mr. Dunn?
That's a great question. I think they can. I think what the governor's orders said that you must hold 2 public hearings within 30 days, and his order tolls that timeline, so they don't have to be within 30 days. But he wasn't really clear on whether they can be virtual or not virtual. It's just that the timelines are told. And so it's theoretically, and we could follow, if this is where the council ends up deciding, we would look a little further at that to see if we could hold those hearings to get public input. And his orders were on point. They're like, this is an important decision, so they want to have as much public participation as possible. And when you have these Zoom meetings, people don't always show up. So that's why it's out there. I think his orders were more geared towards cities being sued, and so that the city didn't have to react very quickly without having public participation. So those times were held off. But in a council initiated change, I think that the meetings could be virtual, as far as I know.
Anybody
Mayor,
else?
if I may
Which
make a
is
comment.
difficult because a lot of our seniors are not computer literate. And I know when I was doing our cops and clergy meeting, after we went to Zoom meetings, I lost about 20 pastors after that because a lot of them were not computer proficient, didn't go on the computers. So that would limit the number of participants who could participate if we go to virtual meetings. We want the whole public to be involved. If we're going to make major changes to our city, I think it's very important that we consider some people don't go on the computers. A lot of seniors don't. I found out a lot of our pastors do not go on. Our Zoom meetings went down to about 4 or 5 participants.
I would agree with Councilwoman Rogers regarding that. I don't see what the rush is. This issue has not been brought up since August of 2017. We went through 2018, 2019. We had a full-on election just in November without this issue being brought up. So waiting a little bit longer to ensure that our residents are not disenfranchised, and this raging pandemic that has killed 152 parish residents, I think it's something that we should really seriously consider, especially a lot of our senior citizens. They're basically being disenfranchised if we move forward on this Zoom meeting. And that is something I am not for, as just an African-American with a history of disenfranchisement of my people in this country. I just think we need to hold up. This is something that has not been brought up since August. You can review all the meetings since August of 2017 to move forward with the Zoom meeting. It leaves us open to liability. And I think the governor's orders will be lifted once the majority of the population is vaccinated. So those are just my 2 cents. I stand by my amended motion, and I call into question that motion so we can take a vote on it.
Okay, well, hang tight there. Let me get my 2 cents in if I can. It's not a matter of, we're not trying to rush anything. Again, folks, we're not voting and directing staff that we're doing this. It's just to move forward, and I think education is very important to get out to our residents. I've gone through this process as a school board member, and as Mr. Dunn says, no one shows up to the meetings. I think we would get more participation in the Zoom meeting versus a live meeting, but we're not there yet. We're just merely talking about letting staff move forward now, maybe we do some outreach, do some virtual education, just to get the ball rolling to see when we get to that point, if we're even going to go further. So with that, let's go ahead and end this conversation. We have a motion on the floor in a second. So at this point, I'll call for a roll call vote. Can you reiterate the motion so everybody knows what they're voting on?
Yes, my amended motion was to table this discussion until the census figures are released and the governor has lifted the emergency orders.
Got it. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did vote no, didn't I?
5-0, motion approved.
Okay, good conversation, folks. Item 10B is consideration to review and approve the fiscal year 2020 and 2021 mid-year budget report. This will be introduced by Director of Finance, Mr. Ernie Reyna.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. So I have for you tonight is the fiscal year 2020-2021 mid-year budget review. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Start the presentation. Okay. So previously, back on October 27th, we brought forward to you some adjustments for budget back then that was kind of a catch-up for the previous fiscal year. So we did some revisions of revenues. We did some revisions of expenditures and CIP. This particular report will not include CIP, so it'll be a really brief report with just a few slides. We're going to touch upon a few areas, including revenue for the general fund, expenditures within the general fund, and then I'll show you where we stand in terms of the overview of revenues for the year, expenditure for the year, and whether we're in a deficit or a surplus situation. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and start here. And so what we have and what this is showing is there's two areas that we want to adjust for revenues. And so there's two line items. First one will be the sales and use tax revenue, which we actually are going to decrease by 3.1 million. If you recall our discussions with a certain vendor of ours that we have in Wayfair, we had to think about how that approach was going to go because of the way it was reallocated out of our city. And so because of that decision made by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, we need to actually decrease the amount of revenue that we're getting for sales and use tax, particularly just for that one company. Other companies within the sales and use tax category are actually looking really good and are beating expectations. So we're hopeful that that won't be as low as we think it might be. But for now, we're going to go ahead and decrease that amount by 3.1 million. And the next line item is actually the cannabis tax revenue. The original budget that we had amended back in October showed that our budget projections would be about 2.5 million for cannabis tax. We actually are going to increase that by 1.5 million because through 6 months of the year, we're actually looking at about a $4 million revenue for cannabis tax. So we want to take that budget from 2.5 million up to 4. So in order to do so, we're adding an additional 1.5 million. So all in total, when you net the two, we actually have a decrease in total general fund revenues by about 1.6 million. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the general fund expenditures. We have 3 departments here that are requesting increases. 2 of the 3 departments are actually using general fund monies. And as you'll see down on the bottom, we actually have one that's coming out of our developer impact fee for community amenities. So first we'll start with Public Works. There's a lift station repair that needs to take place that's totaling $175,000. And in speaking with our Director of Public Works, what this is for is it's located on 7th Street. This is for the wet wall repair, including replacing 2 pumps and all the piping within the wet wall, sewer line repair from the lift station to the manhole, and then repairing the manhole itself. And so we're requesting $175,000 from the general fund for this particular project. Next is my own department, finance. As you may be aware, we're actually in the midst of moving from our current location and administration over to the 227 North D Street location. We should be out by the end of the month is what we're anticipating. So in order to do so, we're going to have to furnish the offices that are located there. So staff is requesting $40,000 to have office furniture, including desks, credenzas, cabinets, etc. And those 2 amounts, the $175,000 and the $40,000, are coming out of the general fund, and that totals $215,000 from the general fund. Lastly, for the general city and the current construction that we're looking at, we'd like to construct some private bathrooms for staff at City Hall where administration is at. And so this particular amount of money, the 175, is not coming out of general fund. It'll be taken out of the community amenities developer impact fee. And so again, that would be for $175,000. So all in total for the three, we're looking at $390,000, of which only $215,000 is actually coming out of the general fund. So those are our three asks for the general fund. And then lastly, just a quick summary of where we currently stand versus where we were back in October. So when we did bring to council back in October, we actually increased revenues, we increased expenditures, but where it brought us to was a surplus of roughly $264,000. This time around, we're actually decreasing revenues, again, because of the overall with one particular company, and we're currently stand at 51.4 million. Our expenditures did go up, but not by much. So we're now at 53.1 million, which brings us to a current situation of a deficit of about 1.7 million. Staff is pretty confident we can close this gap by the time the fiscal year closes. And we're going to do that in a couple different ways. We're hopeful that there are certain line items for revenues that will come in higher than we anticipated. But we're also going to look at expenditures. We're going to ensure that any of the places that we can save money on, we will. We believe there will be some savings in staffing because there's some vacant positions that are currently open. And we believe that we're also going to have some savings with our current sheriff's contract. We typically come in under budget every year. So we're hoping that those particular areas are going to help offset the deficit. So of course, we'll bring back a year-end report as we normally do in October-ish, September, October-ish of the next fiscal year. So we can kind of close this one out in addition to our year-end financial audit that will show where we're at. So at the moment, we're just looking for, actually that concludes my report, but that we're just looking to have these items approved. And if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer, Mr. Mayor. And that concludes my report. Let me go ahead and take this off so I can stop sharing my screen with everybody. Give me a sec. There we go. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernie. Council, anybody have comments or questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Rand, thank you for the presentation. Just for the people watching out in the public, can you briefly explain the decrease in revenues from Wayfair?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. So recently, early January, we got an email from our consultant, HDL. They handle sales tax for us, and they had gotten a phone call from, like I said, the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. They're the ones that receive the sales tax, and they divvy that back out to the state that goes to the county and then eventually comes back to the city. In the situation for Wayfair, what was considered point of sale in the past is no longer point of sale. And when you have a point of sale, a company, you receive 100% of those revenues. And so that whole composition changed. And so the makeup of Wayfair is no longer that it's point of sale because their inventory is coming from other places not located in the city. And so that with the addition of another facility that was constructed in the city of Lathrop, which I believe is up north, took our revenue distribution from 100%. 50% of that would now go into the county pool. And so those revenues that were coming to us would now be shared amongst the other cities in Riverside County, as well as 25% would be going directly to the city of Lathrop. So what we know for sure is that we would only receive 25% of revenues for sure. And then our portions that we get out of the county pool, which is equivalent to about 10%. So that dramatically reduced our revenues from 100%. And we ended up losing about, when I calculate, about roughly 69% of our revenues from Wayfair alone. So we stand to have about 30% of that when we originally had 100%. So you can see there's a big discrepancy in what we're getting. And because of that, we're told that we're going to have to go ahead and reduce our revenues because it was actually going retroactive to a certain date. With the city of Lathrop, they actually went online October 1st of 2019. So some of these revenues are retroactive back to October 1st of 2019. And then with the county pool, that went back about a year till January of last year. And so that was the 50% portion that should have gone back to the county pool that's split amongst the various cities. And so you can see that portion that we're actually reducing is for the past amounts. And so then going forward, we're actually going to have to reduce our revenues for Wayfair in the future in this upcoming new budget cycle. So we'll have that as well. So these are the kind of things that we're monitoring really closely, but these things, impact us. And so we're looking for ways to offset these dollar amounts. But in a nutshell, that's essentially what happened with this waiver situation.
Thank you for condensing that for the viewing public. I really appreciate
I
it.
hope that wasn't too detailed.
No, it's perfect.
Okay.
Anybody else? Councilman Corona?
Yeah. So are we taking questions or comments?
Yes.
Or both?
Yes.
Okay. My concern with this is the with the amendments to our budget. In light of the situation with going on with Wayfair and the loss of large revenues, I'm just kind of concerned about making improvements here at City Hall when we seem to maybe have a loss of funds for our community as a whole. So I know one of the amendments is to add extra restrooms at our here at City Hall, but the restrooms aren't going to be for the public. They're going to be for staff, which I totally understand, and I get that, but I just can't see voting for something when we do have restrooms that we share with the public. I know that sometimes the restrooms are a concern, but I think if we just add security, make sure that they're clean. If they're good enough for the public, they should be good enough for staff. So I'm not going to try to motion for a change on this because I don't think I'll get support, but I'm going to vote no on this just because of the additional restrooms costing $175,000. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, just to kind of answer that question, with respect to the dollar amounts being used for that, they aren't general fund monies. It's coming out of developer impact fees. So if that helps at all, I just wanted to make that known that it's not general fund monies.
So I think that's a good point. Where else could development impact fees go to?
They're very specific on what they can be used, and each category has a definition of how it can be used. This one we felt community amenities was kind of, what the category was for that type of thing, for a bathroom type of thing. So we do have different types of diffs that we could use, but this one there was enough in there we figured we could use for the design and the actual building out of the restroom. So this could fit that category, and that's why we decided we could use this for the restrooms.
So for community improvements, would that fall under community improvement?
Yeah.
Okay, but those restrooms are not going to be for the community, correct?
I mean, you can make that argument, but we were using it in that sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? I don't see any more hands. And just to clarify, Ernie, development impact funds, that's not taxpayers' money is what you're saying?
No, it's not.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll now open up, see if we have any public comment. Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
IT, do we have anybody online?
No, sir.
Thank you. Then at this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Councilwoman Rogers,
Second
by Mayor Pro Tem. Call a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Magana,
Yes.
Councilmember Corona,
No.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes.
Rabb, Rogers, Magana, Vargas, yes. Corona, no.
Okay, item 11 is public comment. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
Yes, sir. Douglas Corona, your mic is on.
Mr. Corona, you got 3 minutes.
Okay, you guys can hear me now, right?
Yes, Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Governing Board. Anyways, I'm not here to expose Malcolm Corona for his incompetence or his mass spreading of QAnon conspiracy theories. I'm actually here on a more serious note. I'm a school board member for Paris Elementary School District, and I'm proposing possibly the city putting in a sidewalk that starts from A Street or from Shauna Court all the way to A Street. Okay, so along Metz Park or Metz Road, West Metz Road. So it would just be a sidewalk there. The only reason why is because we have students, not so much Paris Elementary, but they do come during the day as well from Innovative Horizons, but especially from the military school. And they come in at night. Of course, not right now because they're all distance learning. However, we're going to be starting up, we'll know exactly when, but possibly soon or even after the summer. But anyways, they come in at night, they walk home, and there's absolutely no sidewalks there. There's no street lights as well. And so I think it's a huge safety issue. And everywhere else, there's sidewalks going towards the schools. So that's my proposal, if you guys could possibly look at it. And that's pretty much it. Great job, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Corona. Anybody else?
No, sir.
All righty, we'll close public participation. Item 12 is our Youth Advisory Committee communication, and this will be given by Naomi Acosta, the President of the Youth Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, members of the council and city staff, the Youth Advisory Committee is excited to announce that the 2021-22 YC applications are now open. The youth who are interested in impacting their community, engaging with their peers, and being the voice of the Paris youth are encouraged to apply. The Youth Advisory are seeking individuals like you. Applications are available on the city website and are due by July 31st by 5 p.m. For more information, please contact the Paris Community Services Department. Some updates from our subcommittees. The Societal Subcommittee has continued to post inspirational and informational resources on our YEC social media platforms. These help to bring awareness to social issues. And the Public Health Subcommittee would also like to remind the youth that it is not too late to register for the Youth Rising Against Tobacco and Vaping Virtual Summit. It is scheduled for February 27th of 2021 from 9 a.m. to noon. Registration can be found on our social media pages. This concludes our updates. The Youth Advisory Committee wishes everyone a safe and happy Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Item 13 is our council communication. And we'll start with Councilman Corona.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say thank you to my colleagues for having a good discussion. I actually really enjoyed it. I know sometimes we have disagreements, and that's fair because many of our residents disagree on many things. But I'm glad it was respectful, and I really enjoyed it. I want to thank our YAC liaison for doing a fabulous job for bringing up the issues what YAC is doing. And I think that's all the people I'm going to thank for right now. No, anyways, I did get a lot of people that brought a concern. This is kind of a serious note. On 4th Street between A Street and I'd say all the way to Navajo Road. It's just kind of a dangerous area for cars, for traffic, because cars are coming downhill. They're coming really fast. You have Park Avenue is one area across the street by the pharmacy that's over there. They're trying to come out and stuff like that. Just kind of a dangerous area. And we just had another fatality there after we had something in, I believe, 2018, 2019. If we can have our engineering go out there, kind of look at, see how they can make it more safer. If we have to have the cars only make right turns coming out of Park Avenue, for example, then so be it. I know there's a balance between keeping things very mobile, mobility and safety, but I think safety always takes priority. And our hearts definitely go out to the person who lost their life over the weekend. With that, I believe that's all my comments right now. I just want to wish everybody a happy Valentine for this weekend. Stay safe out there. Continue to stay safe. There's so many families that have been impacted by coronavirus. More and more people are going out and they're getting their vaccines, especially our seniors. They're doing a great job of doing it. Keep on doing it. Just make sure you just stay safe. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Magana?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to begin by, again, like Councilmember Corona mentioned, for the lively discussion here with council. That is our goal, to have, varying opinions and ideas, because we each represent different members of our community, right? So I'm glad as well that we had a productive discussion regarding districts here in the city of Paris. That takes me to my next comment. I'd like to thank School Board Member Douglas Corona for joining us tonight and for sharing his concerns. I want to go ahead and make a note that, in fact, Stuart with the engineering department and myself have already taken a trip to that very area, and we are looking to adding sidewalk improvements to A Street and Nuevo Road as well, with the addition of lights to create a safe pathway for students. And another note that I wanted to go ahead and bring up is to potentially introduce something related to COVID-19. Currently, there are various resources and assistance programs that continue to be offered to the city, and I must take a moment to thank our city staff who are making it all possible for supporting our seniors, and small businesses and everything in between. What we don't have offering is any sort of visual symbols that commemorates those who have lost their lives due to COVID-19. And I'm hoping we can begin to create a public memorial at City Hall campus, potentially opting for the United States Capitol flag program. And that's just one example where American flags are flown over the United States Capitol. And we'd allocate those flags in City Hall to honor every single victim, and update that as reports come in from the county's public health department. And if we take that route, I am more than happy to facilitate connecting with our congressional representative's office to coordinate this. But just something to put out there for staff, that I'm hoping we could have some kind of symbolism and, find a way to honor those who have lost ones, and know that they're not grieving alone. For those who have lost any loved ones, we are here to show solidarity as a community. And to wrap up my comments, I'd like to wish you all a happy Valentine's Day and/or Single Awareness Day, and a happy President's Day weekend. That concludes my comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, I'd just like to remind everyone that we are presently offering the vaccines for our seniors over 65 in the city gym. And you want to call the telephone number to book an appointment. And that number is 877-218-0381. Again, 877-218-0381. And also the County of Riverside is now offering vaccines to everyone 65 and over at all of their drive-through sites, including Lake Paris Fairgrounds, as well as Heritage High School. You can go on their page, and for those of you who don't have computers, please call 211 and they'll help you make the appointment. And the numbers are going down for the COVID as far as hospitalizations, as well as the actual cases, which is a good sign. So we want to make sure everyone continues to wear their masks, wash your hands, and practice social distancing. And for those of you who remember our former council member, Mark Yarborough, please keep him in prayer. He is in ICU fighting COVID-19 right now. He has been in the ICU for the last 3 weeks, and he really needs everyone's prayers. So please keep Mark Yarborough in your prayers. And that's all I have this evening. Oh, husbands, boyfriends, don't forget flowers, candy, special date nights, lingerie, all those fun things. So make sure that you take care of your honeys, because it's very important, because if mama's not happy, you're not going to have anything to be happy about either. That's it.
I think that should be applied to mamas too, for their husbands. Let's not take one side here now. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Rab.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Vargas. Once again, I'd like to echo the sentiment of my colleagues. Very spirited discussion today. You see us getting a little heated. We are all still friends. Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for bringing the new laws to our attention. As an attorney working as a DA, I don't often get involved in the government code and the section of the code. I'm usually typically in the penal code and the health and safety code. I want to bring the residents' attention. Cap Riverside Community Action Partnership will be hosting EITC, Earned Income Tax Credit Awareness Day, on Thursday, February the 11th at 10 a.m. It'll be a Facebook Live event at www.facebook.com/CapRivCo. There'll be information regarding the Earned Income Tax Credit and how you may be eligible for it if you make under a certain amount. Once again, this is Thursday, February the 11th, 2021 at 10 a.m. on the Riverside Community Action Cap Rivco Facebook group. Want to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day, also with a happy President's Day. We want to wish everyone a happy Black History Month, just a little Paris Black history. Jesse Washington became the first African-American elected to the Paris City Council, I believe in 1985. He served till 1989. He's still living. He attends our annual our Memorial Day service. Linwood Long became the city's first African-American mayor, second African-American mayor after Jesse Washington. At the time the mayor position rotated, he served on the city council from 1993 to 1997. And Councilwoman Rita Rogers has the distinction of being the first African-American woman on the city council. She was elected in 1999 and still serves on the city council. And I believe she's currently the longest elected official, or at least elected council member in the county of Riverside. So I want to congratulate her on that. And as we move forward in the month of February, I hope you take time to read about some of the unsung people in African-American history, people making history even today. We recently had Dr. Shirley Weber appointed to California Secretary of State. She's the first African-American in that position. And I believe the fourth African-American to hold statewide office in California. You had Wilson Riles, who was the Education Secretary back in the 1970s. Mervyn Damley, who was our Lieutenant Governor from 75 to 79. And I believe Kamala Harris, who was our Attorney General from 2011 up until her election to the Senate and resignation from that office in 2017. So thank everyone for lively discussion, and just hope everyone stays safe, continue to socially distance, and if you are eligible, sign up to get the vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you. Graffiti abatement. I know Councilwoman Magana has brought it up. I have also brought it up with our interim city manager. And we need to step up on our game, and I hope to get the rest of the council's support. But it has become to the point now where sometimes I'm not sure what looks worse, our graffiti or our graffiti cleanup, with all these different patches and colors of paints throughout our walls in our city. If it's not a different match or different color, it's just splattered on. It just oversprayed. And some industrial areas were overspraying walls onto the glass windows, trying to clean up graffiti, and it just looks horrendous. And I know our city manager has already discussed this with our public works director to come up with a plan, but I really want us to support this to the extent that we see what kind of plan he comes up with. But we really need to start investing on our heavy congested block wall areas that are just continually being graffitied, where we need to just come in there and blast the whole wall out. Water blast, power wash. And then buy and keep and supply the same color of paint so that we're continually painting over with the same color, not all these different variations of beiges and yellows and grays and what have you, that ultimately just really, it's just a hard eyesore to look at when we look at our walls as you drive around our community. I have a purple passion over graffiti. I think it's horrible. It just really destroys the beauty of a community. So I'm just hoping we can, when the director comes back with some type of a plan, we really need to focus and support him and put some money in to that program so we can start beautifying our city. Parks Rec, please start moving along and get this finalized project for the parks in the Green Valley project. It's been going on for a long time. I'd like to see if we can get that finalized so we can start working. I did make it out to the Fossville Park Community Thoughts event on park improvements. We had some community members did come up, do a drive-through, virtual, very safe. It was good. The 31st, I supported our American Legion, who had a drive-through breakfast fundraiser. It was a pretty good breakfast consisting of eggs, pancakes, bacon, sausage, home fries, biscuits with gravy, all for just $10. And all the proceeds went to support our Legion. And I believe they're going to be having another one. We'll put that on social media. And then it was always a charm to support our Chamber of Commerce. They had their first perk-up hour on February, I don't remember the exact date, but anyway, it was a great perk-up hour, good attendance. If you can notice on the social media, for the city social media, we've been putting out street racing and giving a phone number, which is our general dispatch number, the 951-776-1099, option 5. Again, that's 951-776-1099, option 5. That is our dispatch for police. I know I get a lot of comments back on Facebook and emails and telephone calls with their communities. It's, why call? They never show up. But the reason to be calling this in is so that the data is collected, so that when they start looking at patterns, they know where to focus on and they know where to go start looking at and helping our communities that have a high impact of racers and persons doing donuts and what have you. Whatever the call comes in, if there's no call being in, there's no data, then there's no help to our police. So please make use of that number. And finally, as Mayor Pro Tem indicated, this is our Black History Month. Paris has a lot of history when it comes to the Black African American Black history. Even the Hispanic when they have their activities, but there's a lot of ritual Black history here in Paris, and I'm glad to be acknowledging to celebrate our Black History Month. And with that, happy Valentine's Day to all our husbands and wives. And I will now move on to item 14, which is our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned, the COVID-19 testing will continue to remain at the Bob Glass Gymnasium for the month of February. However, in observance of President's Day, the COVID testing will be closed on February 15th. Other than that, testing is available Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Additionally, the COVID-19 vaccination site at the gymnasium will also remain open through the month of February so far. And the vaccinations are available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And as it was mentioned prior, it's available for anyone 65 years of age and older, and it's by appointment only. You can call the number that Councilwoman Rogers mentioned, or you can also go to the website myoptumserve.com to schedule your vaccinations for anybody 65 years of age or older. And lastly, I want to mention that the Information Technology Department has launched a live streaming component to Channel 3, which is Paris TV, known as PTV. So it's available on YouTube 24/7, 24 hours a day, every day during the week. And it features regularly scheduled programming, as well as all council and city meetings can be viewed at any time. That concludes my comments for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us up to item 15, which is our adjournment. We thank everybody for being with us, live streaming, Zoom, phone, however. Please continue to wear your mask. There still is an ordinance here in Paris. Maintain your social distancing, and most important, may you and your family please stay healthy. Good night to everyone. We'll see you next meeting.